Welcome back to Mirror's Signal podcast. I'm your host, Josh Holleran, and today we are joined by Kev and Tracey Field from Confident Drivers. In today's episode, we discuss a lot of different topics from becoming a driving instructor to how they establish what they have with confident drivers and all the things that they're up to. And also talking about nerves, stress, and anxiety when you're learning to drive, and a few ways we can help our students deal with them. If you find this episode useful, make sure that you hit the like button and feel free to share. You can also leave any thoughts that you've got in the comments. If you're currently watching on the YouTube app, you can also listen to this and all the other episodes, and they're available on the YouTube Music app. If you want to see what we're up to with the podcast or have any questions for me, you can also head to the Facebook page or the Facebook group, and they're both available at Mirror's Signal Podcast. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any episodes, and we will get on with this one. I hope you all enjoy. So we are joined by Kev and Tracey Field tonight. How are you guys doing?
We're very well, aren't
Yeah,
we?
we're good.
We're very well.
How about you, Josh?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm grateful for you guys coming on, having a chat with me, and we'll see where the conversation goes and what we can cover. But what have you guys been up to?
It's been busy. Is just, I suppose, like most people, aren't we? We're all busy at the moment and doing different things, trying to work together, but also trying to do our own little things as we go. It's very different.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before we came on record, weren't we, about the trials and tribulations of editing podcasts, recording podcasts, planning podcasts, and how much time that takes. So that's been a focus at the moment. We've been busy with that and working towards future plans as well.
Yeah.
And actually working with some nervous.
Yes, forgot that.
Yeah, we've had a little flurry of very nervous drivers, fully qualified drivers, and we've been working with them as well.
Yeah, which is a great area, and it's fascinating when you get to know the under the currents of what's actually happening, and you dig a little bit deeper. It's quite enlightening for them as well as us as well. It's good.
So how do you come into that then, helping full license holders with nerves and things like that around driving? Do people reach out to you? Do instructors forward them on to you? Or do you market at people like that? How does that work? How does that come into it?
Well, I suppose instructors know us as confident drivers.
Yep.
And through that website, obviously people know what we do. We do talks around the country. We got our own podcast, so people listen to that as well. That's mostly where sort of like the learners and the instructors come from, but also people that aren't in the industry.
Yeah, so the fully qualified nervous drivers, they tend to find us either through the podcast, the Driving Confidence podcast, because that's who it's aimed at. So when we first, I mean, we're just about to hit our second birthday for the podcasts have birthdays. Does your podcast have a birthday, Josh? Is it going to have a birthday for its anniversary?
I think it might. I've not thought that far ahead. We've not hit a year yet. But yeah, we'll celebrate it. Why not?
So we had to have our second birthday, and the aim of that podcast was to do something for qualified drivers who are nervous and anxious. So the aim of the podcast was never really for ADIs. It was never really for learner drivers. Or it wasn't specifically for driving test nerves, put it like that. So its focus was always going to be more than driving test nerves, to try and really, there's so many nervous and anxious drivers out there who have passed their driving test, and there has been nothing for them. And often they don't like to go and see ADIs for refresh lessons, because if they do, what they get told is, well, you can drive, so you should be fine. And it's because actually it's very rarely the driving that causes the anxiety in the first place. So we do market to them. With the podcast, the website has two sides to it. So it's got the ADI side and the training that we do for ADIs, but it's also got products specifically for those people. And then that's who we do our PR to as well. So this is why we look to get pieces, we're in some bizarre, we've done some crazy PR. We're in Glamour magazine, so hardly
Do you look at us?
yeah. I did wear nail varnish that day, very rarely, but Grazia, so one of the latest clients who's come to us is because they saw our piece in Grazia magazine. We've been on Talk TV, and Kev got a grilling from Vanessa on Talk TV. We've been in Prima magazine. So yes, we very definitely market out into that area.
Yeah.
And we're working on a piece for later on in the year for Metro as well.
Oh wow. There must be a big need for that and not many people offering it as well. Thinking about it, it's not something that I'd really considered. I mean, I expect a lot of people know a nervous or an anxious driver that only will use the same roads or won't go on the motorway or
Yeah.
just won't drive to certain places and the partner has to drive. And until you guys mentioned it, then I'm like, there's a need for that, and
Yeah.
probably not many people that position themselves to help unless you just get reached out. I'm a nervous driver, but yeah, are they going to go to a driving instructor? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And they probably, I know for me, they don't reach out to a driving instructor because the driving instructor will tell them about the skills of driving, because that's what they tend to do. I'm generalizing now. But yeah, that's what driving instructors tend to do. They don't tackle the thoughts, the feelings that are not just there at the moment, but have been with them for some time. And that's embedded now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we see there are a few themes. So it looks like there's the same issues for lots of people, but we have a process that we use. So our drive calm process, which starts with doing the detective work. And it's when you really start to delve deeper that all sorts of things come out, all sorts of things from their history. And sometimes nothing. Sometimes it's a mystery. So it is fascinating, isn't it, to really, get under the hood properly and delve and do the detective work and find the information and try and pull it all together, all the different jigsaw pieces.
So where's this come from? Helping this market, the nerves, things like that. Where's it come from? How's it got to this point?
Well, I suppose it's, if we go back to the beginning, me coming home as a driving instructor saying, why are people so stressed for a test? What's going on? I don't get it, and I was talking to Tracey. Tracey's a mindfulness teacher. She's a stress management. She's now gone on to Open University and a psychology degree. So she's, totally different to me as a driving instructor. And then saying, why is this? And Tracey saying, well, let's stop. Let's just think about this for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, my background is in cancer care, so I've worked with stress management in cancer care as a holistic therapist, actually from a more mainly from a more physical side, so from a sort of like reflexology and massage point of view. But that's where my mindfulness teaching came in, my stress management work came in, and then the psychology. So it sort of comes from a completely unrelated area where I would have to take what I knew about stress management and apply that with patience. And so with Kev coming home and talking about it, it's just taking the same stuff and applying it into a different context, basically. And so it's that blend of your coaching,
Yeah, my coaching,
your NLP.
yeah, which is fantastic. And then you put the two of them together, and then all of a sudden you can help more people.
So did it start with learners then? So from that side of it, learners and preparing for the driving test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started there, didn't it? It started with learners. But what we found was that it wasn't really learners who were coming to us for help. It was fully qualified drivers.
So that's where Confident Drivers, the website, started. And then we got that notice. Then we the Facebook, obviously social media. So then people noticed us and thought, oh, that's me. This is me. I don't drive on motorways because of this reason, or whatever it may be. I don't drive in the dark, or whatever. We've had varied, all sorts of things. So yeah, and that's where it's sort of like spiraled, I suppose, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, it's an interesting journey. And like I said a minute ago, there's a need for it, definitely, because there's so many people that are worried about driving either out of their area or on the motorway or at night. I can think of a few people off the top of my head where I've offered time in the car. I'm like, I'll take you out for a couple of hours. We'll figure it out. But they've got a license. I'm not going doing another driving lesson. But yeah, there's a few that I know, so I expect I'm probably not alone in that. That there's a couple of people that maybe need you guys and your podcast to become a confident driver.
Yeah. And one of the things that we have very, very definitely discovered is that, yes, there are loads of anxious drivers, and there are lots of people who have limits on where they will drive or when they will drive. But actually, people only want to do something about that. So you mentioned that you've offered to people that you know. It's very rarely that people do anything about it. They will only do something about it when they absolutely have to. So when they move out of London and suddenly they haven't got so much public transport available to them, or when they get divorced and suddenly realize that they've become de-skilled because their husband did all of the driving, and suddenly they realize they have to drive for themselves and they don't they don't know how to. They've de-skilled themselves. Or they want to take the children to birthday parties or doctors, so they go from being only having to worry about themselves to becoming a parent and realizing that actually it'd be really handy, or they want a new job. So they're always forced into making a change. They never just do it. It's very rare that they just do it.
So it's that incentive to do something. I get that. I can see, because if they're nervous and anxious about it, they're not going to want to expose themselves, I don't think, to that until they absolutely have to.
Yeah. And they adapt their lives to fit, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, some of the people we've had have 3 routes. That is all they do. They don't need to do anything. They can go to the shop, they can come back, they can go to the garage to fill up the car with fuel and come back. And they may have another one where they go to a friend's house, and that's literally it. They don't go far. And the problems seem to happen. What happens if there's roadworks? They set out, and then there's all of a sudden there's temporary lights, road closed ahead. Well, that's my normal route. What happens? And that's when the panic sets in, and it's like, okay, I need to do something about this. And yeah, they've had a couple of those ones as well. So it's those, and it's that need. But like Tracey said there, it has to come from that person. That person needs or wants to change, and that's the key to it. We have loads of tools and techniques, but it really is the person that needs that motivation to want to achieve what they want to achieve.
It's fascinating. That must be very rewarding. I mean, I know getting learners through the L test is extremely rewarding, but seeing someone whose life is being affected and you must now know, I don't know whether it was something at the beginning, but from what you're saying there, the need has arisen, whatever it is, and you're helping them achieve that, whether it's a new job or being able to take the children or getting their life back after moving away, whatever it is. So that must be extremely rewarding as well, being in that position with those people that are struggling.
Mm.
Yeah, and the joy that they have. But then sometimes they don't even realize how far they've progressed. So, and Kev's laughing because somebody that he has been coaching, she'd done brilliantly, hadn't she? She'd done amazing. But then she'd messaged, and I can't remember the phrase she used, but she put herself down. She was sort of sending me an email about her progress and then sort of undercut it with a comment. And I'm like, oh, whoa, 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 no, I'm not having that. And so I went back to her and I said, this is what you told us. And I repeated back to her the phrases that she used when she very first got in contact with us. And I said, look at what you told us, and then look at what you're doing now. And she was like, wow, I'd forgotten. And so she'd forgotten how restricted and limited and emotional and scared she was at the beginning. So when she first contacted us, she started crying while she was messaging, because she was saying how she felt about driving, and it made her so emotional while she was doing it that it made her cry. And she put that in her message. This is making me fill up, and I'm feeling really anxious and panicky, and I'm crying while I'm writing this. And I sort of like showed her that, replayed it back to her, and she was like, wow. And that's, so people often have to be encouraged to acknowledge their success as well, even when they know that they've done really well. But it's just that habit of putting yourself down all the time.
Mm. And I suppose our success comes from their success, and that is the same with my learners as well. I'm as happy for them to pass as they are. It's like it's a joint effort. In my part, it's a joint effort, and it's a joint effort from us to help those people with nerves, stresses, and anxieties.
It's a struggle, isn't it? And are you seeing a rise in it? I've spoke to a few people, and I've not been a driving instructor that long, but I seem to be getting quite a few students that in the very early messages, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, and I don't know whether that's normal or whether there seems to be an increase in the anxiety and nerves in people that are now turning 17, 18. Have you guys noticed that in what you're doing?
We have, yeah. I think there's loads of probably reasons why that is. I think for me, one of the biggest thing is we're talking about it more, and we can actually turn around to people and say, I am nervous. That makes me feel really nervous. And it's not a taboo subject anymore, like you've got three heads or something if you say you're nervous. It's okay. It's okay. And it's very similar to mental health problems. People are talking about that more, which raises awareness, and people say, well, do you know what? That's me. I don't mind talking about that now, which I think is fantastic. It's just like, it should be more of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're seeing a rise. Well, one of the reasons why we're seeing a rise, because people are openly talking about their thoughts and feelings now, which is great.
And I think you can argue it in different ways if you wanted to. So Is there a rise, or is it just that we talk about it more? Is there, is modern day society more stressful? Are younger people, are there more expectations? And life is very different now. So you could argue that maybe life is more stressful. I don't know how you measure that. So, it all comes down to opinion, doesn't it? It's all perception and opinion. But anxiety has always been there. So even if it wasn't talked about as much, it's not a new thing. Anxious drivers is nothing new. We both have parents.
Obviously.
Yeah. We had to come from somewhere. No,
Yeah,
so we, both of our mums were not confident drivers. I remember vividly my mum's driving lessons because my mum only had a handful of proper driving lessons with a driving instructor because we couldn't afford to, for her to have a driving instructor. So my dad taught her. And so we were in the back, and I remember them vividly. They were quite traumatic for the whole family. And so and that wasn't unusual. That wasn't unusual. So and we do hear from people in all generations. So people who will say, I learned in the 70s, I learned in the 80s, and I was never confident. People hide it. So yeah, is there more of it? I don't know. It's always been around. It's not a new thing. So yeah, I think you can argue it in lots of different ways. It's all about perception.
That's interesting. We've had two different views on it there. Very interesting. And both of them are very valid points. And like you said, you can come from either approach, and there's probably a number of other factors as well that can come into the equation. And it's a struggle. But a question I have, what is anxiety? What is it? What's happening? Why do we have it?
Did you want the scientific version, or did you want
Let's get some information. Let's talk about it because it gets mentioned a lot. I struggle with it with some things, or at least I think I do. But yeah, what is it? What's happening?
Yeah, so if we look at it on a continuum, so let's look at feeling nervous, which isn't as bad as feeling anxious. So if you separate those out, you start to get a feel for, nerves is sort of like those butterflies in the tummy, that sort of like those that sort of fidgety feeling. So you can, and that could be, you could swap nerves out for excited, even. You can, very, very similar physical feelings, but how you interpret it will be whether you interpret it in a positive way or a negative way. Now, when obviously people use the word anxiety as a bit of a coverall, but if somebody is truly anxious, then it's much more than that, nerves or stressed. It's sort of like higher up the continuum. It's felt more, and you would have side effects and symptoms. So if you're feeling a bit nervous, you might have that funny tummy, but if you were feeling anxious, you might actually be thinking, am I going to be sick? So it's that sort of like more extreme side of things. Generally, when people are anxious, it's often a reaction to something that they're worried might happen. So there's also there's fear of something that is happening right now in this moment. Now that might make you anxious, but often that will be more of a present moment feeling, a sort of like an instinctive fear right now. Whereas often anxiety comes with thoughts and worry and what ifs and what might happen. So it's often very future focused. Whereas worrying and mulling over things and replaying things is often looking back at what's already happened and maybe regretting it and feeling a bit sick about that, or wishing things were different. So yeah, there's a lot of words there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And other people will have very different descriptions as well. So but I do think one of the things we like to try and encourage people is to use more descriptive emotional words, to use different words, because often people will say that they're anxious just without really checking in, doing that moment of how am I? So it sort of becomes a bit of a habit word for some people. Whereas actually, if you can check in and go, how am I? Am I So for learners, for example, they might be doing something that they consider quite difficult, or a particular roundabout or a particular junction, and they might use the word anxious, but actually, are they wary? Are they cautious? Are they determined? Are they, so are there other emotional words that maybe are a better fit and a better description for what they're really feeling, rather than just using that word anxious or panicking? Doesn't mean that people aren't feeling anxious or aren't panicking, but sometimes it's good to come out with a more descriptive word.
And just the thing that I tend to use in reflective logs that we use now, because some people also try and find it really hard to express their emotions, like their nerves or stressed, or what, that umbrella words that we call them. So if you are an instructor or someone that's learning to drive, listening to this, get a page filled with emotions, or even on your phone, you have loads of emotions on that phone that you can look at, and just look at them and point to an emotion that you are feeling. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's how I'm feeling. It's not stressed. I'm actually just a little bit, like Tracy says, wary of what might happen. So it's sort of like you're getting a little bit deeper, but you're actually becoming more precise in what you're feeling. And I think that works really, really well, especially with people that are used to using emotions.
Does that make it easier for them to manage if we use the term I'm anxious, I'm nervous? It doesn't help us, but if I'm a bit cautious, if I'm a bit worried, we can delve with that. Okay, what we're worried about, what's going to happen. So that for us as instructors can help us untie things with students rather than I was really stressed at that roundabout. Untying the stress is difficult, but if we pin an emotion and we've got a word, we can then try to delve from that side of it.
Yeah. And not only does it help you as an ADI think, okay, yeah, well, that's good. I want you to be wary, or I want you to be cautious. And how can we get it from there to being a bit more decisive? So, you can play with that. But also, if the student uses a more descriptive word, a more accurate word for their emotion, it actually changes the way that you feel. So that your thoughts affect your feelings, affect your behavior, that whole triangle. So actually, if you're using I'm stressed, the more you tell yourself you're stressed, the more you're going to feel stressed, and the more you're going to behave in a stressed way. Whereas if you can just take a moment, check in, how, actually, am I feeling disgusted? Am I feeling just fed up? Am I feeling disappointed? So, sort of use those feelings that people get when they fail their driving test. Then they might say they're stressed or anxious, but actually they're disappointed with themselves. They're feeling rejected. They're feeling dejected. So if you can use those more accurate words, it changes how you feel inside and it softens it down.
Mm.
That's fascinating. And it's really got me thinking because it is a challenge and learning to drive is stressful. There's a lot to take in. I find a lot of students struggle because they can pick things up, whereas driving's a completely new skill. And not only that, you're doing it at speed and you're using your hands together, your feet together. You've got to be looking further down the road. There's so much coming into it, so much information. So to be able to simplify it and just figure out what's the concern, what is it? We know you're stressed, but let's identify it and figure that out. That's really interesting, and it's something I've not done much of. I'm gonna take that idea and run with it. But where can we find things like that? You guys, bringing it back to the confident drivers, is that what you do for ADIs? We'll give you a little plug now, and we'll sell what we've got going on. But it's things like that can make our life so much easier, and therefore we offer a more rounded product to students. How do we start getting into that as driving instructors that don't have the background that you guys have?
Well, I suppose for a driving instructor that's either just coming just coming into the industry, yeah, someone like a PDI, they're probably given um, 3 questions for feedback. This is I'll do this one. What went well? What didn't go so well? What would you improve next time? That's normally the 3 questions that every PDI gets, and you say, right, just use these and you'll be fine. Well, you will be okay. But I think what you could do is use someone like, I'm going to say us, there's loads of people that do loads of different and great things, but we've combined our skills to give you more informed questions, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I think, and some of them are just really, really simple questions, like name one thing that went well today. So rather than saying what went well, just name one thing that went well today. You're not trying to think of the whole lesson. You're trying to think of just one thing, which makes it's actually easier. But obviously, we've put all this together for ADIs, even students. My students love it. Some of them don't do it because they class it as homework and they're never going to do homework in their life because it's driving and you don't do homework with driving. But other students absolutely love it because it gives them a chance to, well, some of them actually plan all their lessons. I don't have a say in what we're going to do. They just come to the lesson. This is what we're going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. These might be my problems. And what I want help with is this. And it's like, right, okay, I better choose a route then. Or did you want to choose the route? Oh, no, I've already got the route for you. And it's like, wow, is that the ideal lesson? Well, probably. But that is something that we give, if through the website. And
Yeah. Well, more precisely,
oh,
that we give through our training course.
yes.
So, because otherwise people think we just give it.
Well, we do, yeah. We do it through the training courses.
So we've got a 6-week training course that we've been running for nearly 2 years now. That has 6 modules. And the first module is all about what Kev's just been talking about. It's that detective work. It's that asking good, effective questions that delve a little bit deeper and that then help you ask that second question rather than it just being the first question, sort of like, how are you feeling? I'm feeling stressed. Okay, great. Should we get on then? So it just goes that bit deeper, and it's that detective work, which is absolutely key. So yeah, I mean, we've now run six, seven cohorts now of the 6-week drive calm course for ADIs, really to try and share the expertise, share the knowledge, share what we do. And it's changed over the cohorts, because we're still getting more and more experience. Every time we work with new people, we'll add little bits in and go, oh, you need to try this, and we've got a little Facebook community as well, where we share information, and ADIs sort of like pop in, help. And put their problem forward, and everybody in the group. So it's not somewhere where everybody asks us for help. It's somewhere where people share problems, and it's a collaborative place. And because we allow, when somebody signs up for the Drive Calm course, they can reattend all the future cohorts free of charge. So the whole idea, the whole premise is, it's a bit like reading a book a second time, a third time, a fourth time, because every time you repeat the course or repeat a module of the course, you've got different students, you've got different experiences, you hear different things, and you will apply different things. And so rather than trying to take on all the information that we share just in 6 weeks, and then it's like, oh, well, whatever, you didn't get, tough luck, it's come back. And ADIs do come back. So every cohort is a mix of some new ADIs who've just signed up, and some previous ADIs who've attended once before, 3 times before, multiple times before. So it's really nice, isn't it? It's a nice community. And then that's going to become a qualification later on this year.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I get so engrossed in
link there.
The problem is with me, because I'm the one that goes and practices it all.
Yeah.
Tracey comes up with, well, have you ever thought about this? And I go, not really. But what I'll do is, let's put something together. I'll go and practice it. See what I notice, see what needs changing, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's easy, whether it's hard. And then we make something up. Not literally, that sounded really bad then.
No, but you're my guinea pig, aren't you? And so, yeah, we create, make something up. We create.
We're very creative.
Yes.
Well, I'm not a guinea pig. I'm very creative.
So you guys are reflecting on what you're doing kind of live then. The things that are developing within your course are being almost pressure tested with students. But a question for you then, with your students, do you take on nervous, anxious students? Do you take on old students? How does that work? Do you find you're more into the niche of, say the niche, but like more into nervous students, anxious students, or anyone?
It's literally anyone. Well,
Okay.
I say anyone because I can't fit people in. Like most people at the moment. But I suppose everybody has a certain level of nervousness, stresses, and that's because of various different things. But I suppose if you read some of the reviews, I was just thinking some of the reviews I get, he's very calm, he's very patient, lessons are fun. And I think that people read that and they go, well, that's the person I want to teach me, or that's the person I want to teach my daughter, or whatever it is. So yeah, I'd never say no to someone. If I can fit them in, I will. And it doesn't have to be, you have to be nervous or whatever. Like, that's not a,
Yeah, no, it's not like you're
I can make you nervous.
We're going to make you nervous learning to drive.
And then I'll cue you.
Yeah, I see that. If you are nervous, then I can keep, these are the techniques I use. No, I don't do that.
Because you do, I don't know whether it's me, I get quite a lot, but then a lot of, when you mentioned the reviews, initially when I started out, I didn't think the reviews meant much. And now when I'm asking my students why they're with me and why they're so nervous, but I ask what's your deciding factor in choosing a driving instructor? And a lot of them, especially the ones that are more on the anxious and nervous side, very much, I read all the reviews. I've been through your social media, and I'm like, okay. So it is worth something, the reviews, which I didn't think at the beginning, I do now. And I guess maybe that is why people are attracted, because of my reviews, patient, calm. Um, yeah, it's interesting. And if people suffer with nerves, they're going to spend, I think, a bit more time looking into it than probably someone who doesn't, that just rings every driving instructor till someone's got a space and are happy to go with anyone.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it makes sense, doesn't it? That if you're nervous or anxious, you're going to be more careful over who's going to be teaching you to drive, because you know that you need a bit more support. You don't want any old person. For want of a better word. And when somebody, if we're ever asked, that's one of the things that we say. If we can't recommend somebody in somebody's local area, then we say, look at the reviews, look at the words, think of the qualities that you want in a driving instructor, and those are the qualities that you're looking for in the reviews. And that's, people need to, if you're nervous and anxious, you want to choose somebody that fits, is a match for you, not somebody who's going to knock your confidence. But you also want a bit of that know, like, trust factor. So people stalk you, they will stalk your social media, they will be watching your podcast, listening to our podcast, checking somebody out. It's like, do I get a feeling that I know this person, that I like this person, that I trust this person, and that I can work with you?
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think it really does. I suppose it comes across in your teaching, and they will tell other people what they do. And you are what you are, aren't you? I think one of the biggest words that I use when I'm teaching people is just be authentic. If you're authentic in what you do and what you believe in, you will attract those sort of people. I'm a firm believer in that. And I think, and I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, but the public perception of driving instructors is not that good, is it really? Do you know? And that's probably where we've gone wrong over the years. And maybe we're changing it, maybe we're not, I don't know. But yeah.
We can delve into that, the public perception. Why? Why? Why have we got that view? What's causing it?
Oh, where do we start, Josh? This is the thing, isn't it? I mean, you've probably had it as well, where people turn up late for lessons. They've got a lesson booked at 10 o'clock or whatever it is, and they don't turn up till quarter past, and then it's all rush, and they see driving instructors on their phones. And that, I just can't understand that one, but it happens. And it's just like, really? I just don't really get it. I mean, I don't wear a suit to work or anything like that, but I just think if we're a profession and we are professionals, and I think I suppose what I'm trying to get at is, are we the best driving instructors that we can be? I suppose I've opened a can of worms, so I might as well go there. I think people pass that test when they're an ADI, Part 3. They pass that test, and that's it. Right, I can teach people to drive now. But that is the bare minimum what people should be doing. They would, in their training, and this is probably the generalization again, they have never been taught how to deal with a nervous student. They have never been taught how to deal with someone that's nervous for their test. They'll probably turn around and say, "Don't worry, you know what you're doing. Just go and drive safely." What? Yeah, I just go off on one when someone says that to me. It's like, whoa, well, hang on a minute. But this is what I think. People ask questions. And I sit in the back of cars when I'm doing my instructor training, and I say, what's the reason you asked that question? And they say, I just asked it. And they don't even really know what they're doing. And because they've been told to ask a question, they don't know why they're asking that question, but it fits with what they've been trained to do.
Or what is a good question, or what is
well, that's
it?
a whole different subject altogether. Don't even start me on that one. But it is just like, how can you get better at asking questions? Well, you've got to go on training. Go and find someone. It doesn't have to be driving instructors. It could be outside the industry. Go and find someone that knows about asking questions. If you need to know more about dealing with nerves or stress, anxiety, go and find someone that deals with that. If you need to know, and this really does, it gets you as well, this one. In for a penny, in for a pound. So there we go. So if I ask driving instructors, and this could be PDIs, could be ADIs, it doesn't matter. Explain to me can you explain the 17 competencies that you're being assessed on? And they'll go, right, yes, I can. And they'll say there's lesson planning, there's risk management, and there's teaching and learning strategies. And I say, great. Explain all of them to me. Imagine that I'm a Martian come down from Earth to Earth, and I want to become a driving instructor. Explain what I'm going to be assessed on, and give me an example for each one. And they look at me as if I am that Martian. And it's like, what? You don't even know what you're being assessed on. Come on. This is, and I think that is really bad.
Yeah. It shocks me as somebody from outside of the industry. And I'm coming from a bit of a naive place because I'm not an ADI and I'm not delivering driving lessons, so I can't really say that much. But in the different jobs that I've done, there's never been anything that I've had to learn a job, be assessed on it, and not understand what I'm being assessed on, or not provide evidence of my CPD on an annual basis as part of my insurance requirements, or not have standards that if I want to continue to work with people, then yes, I need to do my CPD, I need to have my insurance, but there's also a tick list of things that I need to make sure I've done every year in my own personal practice, as well as in my CPD. So it's really surprising. It really surprises me. The bit that surprises me the most is the fact that ADIs will only worry about the competencies for their standards check and then not bother in driving lessons, which is really weird. There is no other job where you learn something, you're assessed on something because that's how you're supposed to do it, but you don't do it when nobody's looking. And then you only worry about it for the test. It's bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I probably opened up a can of worms there, Josh. It's like
The thing is, when Kev first became an ADI, we sat down, and so while I'm not an ADI, but it was still very much a joint thing, and we sat down, and it's like, what do we want the business to look like? So we looked at it maybe from a more business point of view, but to go from a regular job, earning a regular wage, doing irregular hours, but anyway, so to go from that security into being self-employed and running your own business, it was like, what does it look like to not be stereotypical, to not look like everybody else? What would we do that's different? What's going to make us stand out, and what's going to make you not be complacent, and make sure that you're always striving to be in those upper levels of trying to be among the best. And that's sort of like been the guiding force ever since, hasn't it?
And you don't have to be the best. Just be the best that you can be. And that's great. But put a little bit of effort in.
Yeah, it's that
You know,
striving.
I
It's
just-
that striving to be among,
Yeah.
in that area, not being complacent.
There. Did you expect that, Josh?
Do you know what? I've a lot of time for that, and I'm glad you didn't ask me to list off the 17 competencies and explain them off the bat. But we're gonna move on from that bit, and I'm gonna edit it
Yes,
out.
move on.
If you've not watched the episode with Neil Whiteman, he tried it as well, I think.
It is my friend. It's my little buddy.
But it's the thing that gets me. We talk about the 17 competencies and how to teach roundabouts and X, Y, and Z. The thing that doesn't seem to get mentioned a lot on the social media that strikes me quite a bit, the more I think about it, is what it is we're teaching. And we're teaching a 17-year-old, potentially a 17-year-old, to drive what, 1.5 tons of metal, maybe heavier, up to 3.5 tons on a class B. There we go. I did do some theory. And that's capable of legally doing 70 mile an hour on some roads, but a lot faster illegally. And we're in charge of teaching those people how to handle that. There's a lot of pressure on us to do it. And you said you don't want to get complacent. Absolutely. I've been doing it 2 years now, quite a few people through test. Whenever there's an RTA on the news, or RTC, whatever we call it, my worry these days, I'm like, is it a student? Do I know them? And we can take all of this, the CPD, everything else, but it's a high risk job. And we might be observed doing it for 40 minutes once every 4 years, maybe, if the DVSA can organize something of some description to keep us accountable.
You're 100% right. You are 100% right. And an interesting, I suppose I've done loads of training on this as well. Through the years, I've done loads of training to driving instructors, even pupils. And for driving instructors, how many driving instructors will class themselves as professional drivers? I think Josh's face there was just like, am I? I'm a driving instructor. But
Yeah,
you are a driving professional.
definitely. And I like to think I act like that as well when I'm driving. Hence, I'm not allowed to drive anywhere when I go out with friends. I'm banned from being driver.
Do they put you in the boot?
No comment.
But that is exactly that, isn't it? That is part of that. I mean, I know people that say, yes, I'm a professional driver, and I could quote you all the rules.
Yeah.
And they do all the rules, and they say, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. Fantastic. This is brilliant. But how do we pass that information on to someone that's going to pass their test? And like you said, you hear something on the radio and you just hope that you don't recognize the names. It's part. Well, first off, that shows you care. That for the first part, that shows you care about what you're doing. But the second part is, have we actually had those discussions with people? Just imagine that you're driving Friday night, coming back from a night out. You are the designated driver. You have not had anything to drink. You are perfectly legal and capable of driving that car. So what changes? What makes you drive differently?
Mm.
Is it the stress of my friends don't like me driving this, but I am the designated driver, and they're saying, look, come on, we want to get home today, not tomorrow. Come on, this is it something along those lines, or is it something else? Is it that you peer pressure comes in? And I think as part of in an ideal world, I would like to see something brought in. We used to have cycling proficiency at school,
Yes.
and years ago, and I think they still do it. I know we
Yeah.
still do it around here.
Okay, we do. Yeah.
We also have something sort of like lower schools here. We have sort of like a different tier system in schools, where there's a walking bus to school, where it start off one place, they pick up kids, and you walk to school. It's quite nice. But I think put the walking bus together so you can use that as a learning tool. The cycling proficiency, you're using that as a learning tool. But then what I'd like to see is that theory being brought in from when they're about 12. If you bring the theory in from when they're 12, and it can only be an hour a week, it doesn't have to be mental. But what you do is an hour a week. And when you get to 16, you take your theory test. You've had your walking bus. You've had your cycling proficiency. You've had this 4 years of theory of dealing with not just what does this road sign mean, but driver behavior. What would happen? How do you drive? Car mechanics. And doing the business of how much does a car cost to run? And how are you going to pay for that? I think you could leave school with a qualification in driving, a BTEC level 2 or something. I don't know. It's just my mind works. But how about that as it's completely out there? But what it does is involves us in those situations as professional drivers. We are starting them off earlier. We are who are teachers, and I think that's what we should be doing. I know I've gone off slightly on track, but this is what you can see the passion there.
Yeah.
And it will never happen because people consider driving as a choice, as a whatever. It's just driving, isn't it? I can pass in 20 lessons. Why do I need to do this for 10 years of my life? I can pass the test in 10 hours. And that's what we're dealing with. It's that going back to the public perception of what we do. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Is there an easy answer? I think there's got to be a start.
Whereas maybe the DVSA are going to watch this, and amongst all their organization and great things that they're doing, they might put that in place.
But it's I just think it's something I thought about, ages ago. I'm a lorry driver as well. We used to be a lorry driver. I would love everybody to drive a lorry because it is a completely different world.
Yeah.
You see things differently. There's so many more blind spots. The speed, the weight, it is fantastic. I would love people to drive one because it is really good experience. But you have a different appreciation for them when you see them on the road.
There's something in that for driving instructors, I think. I didn't get my C+E, but I did get my category C through the military and drove a lot of big trucks. And it's helped me with my teaching when you're being proactive with the student or you're asking questions. And why is the lorry doing that? Oh, this is why, X, Y, and Z. And when you've sat in that seat and you see, like you've said, what's happening in a big truck, you can then part that knowledge to the students because a lot of them seem to think, at least mine, I'll not generalize, seem to think that truck drivers and bus drivers are not great drivers. And I expect that comes from comments when they're swinging out wide to try and get around a corner. I look at that lorry and it's like, how else are they supposed to do that bend?
Yeah, and I think it's part of our experience and part of our knowledge, isn't it?
It's
I
the
think
same
right at
with
the
the
beginning.
bike as well.
Yeah,
Riding a
well, I'm not
motorbike.
even. Yeah, they just scare me.
That's why I sold mine.
It's like the one I wouldn't trust myself on it because they go too fast. I know they can still do 30 and they're 20, but everyone tells me about the thrill, and I would like to just see how fast one of those could go. And it wouldn't end well with me. That's so I wouldn't, that's just wouldn't do it. So, but yeah, no. But I'd love a qualification in driving. Every student leaves school with a qualification in driving.
It's needed because it's such a high risk thing, and most people go on to do it anyway. Why not capture everyone? And
Yeah,
they've got the knowledge to be around roads and understand what's going on. Is that in the future then for you? Get into the schools.
um, I don't quite know where it's going to fit in my schedule,
Yeah.
Josh. I think there's someone sitting next to me going, "He ain't doing
No.
that." That's something else for him to do. No, he can't do that. But yeah, maybe I'll train someone up and I'll mention it to them. I say, "Look, this would be quite a good idea, wouldn't it?" And I can champion them on that way.
There you go. If
There you go,
anyone's
Josh.
watching,
If you want to come out of podcast and go into qualifications, just give me a shout.
I'd need to really know what I'm doing then, wouldn't I? On this, I just pretend and get carried by the guests. It's great.
I love it. I love it.
There's
But yeah,
been That's a fascinating insight, and I think we do need to remember the risk of what comes with driving a car. And there's so much that we can be doing, but ultimately we want to put safe drivers on the road, and we want to do that as efficiently and as effectively as we can, really, don't we?
exactly. And things that we do with confident drivers, I think works towards that,
Yeah.
which is what we want. We want people on the road that are safe and we all work together, and I think if that's something else, isn't it? If we all work together, it reduces stress anyway.
Definitely. And then we can help more people stay safe, take less risk, and understand the 17 competencies.
Did my face go red when I started talking about that? It's just like,
I think mine did when you was like, if people can list off and explain the 17 competencies. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do this. Is getting cut out.
Oh no, I didn't. I'm sure you didn't mean to be able to
no,
say no. Yeah,
no. I wouldn't do that to you just on the spot.
Not this time. But you're right. There's a lot, and I think we can be doing more. It's quite easy to sit back about, right, I've got the qualification. That's me good for 4 to 6 years. The way the DVSA is, they're probably never going to get round to me again. We'll renew the badge in a few years and go from there. But there's so much to learn. And if you're getting into this job, there's got to have been a reason that you've come into it. Even even if it's for the money, then business, just build, branch out, whatever it is, but continue to try and develop. Because I think when you try and develop in one area, it spreads on to everything else anyway, and it
Mm.
just starts that chain, doesn't it? And then before you know it, you're working however many hours a day doing a number of different tasks that you're not qualified for, and you wonder how
You
you've got through
learn.
the week. So what we will do now, if it's all right with you guys, before we end up going anywhere else, we might do yet, we'll see. But I've added a new part to the show, some tell me questions. Do you mind if we go through them?
Of course you can. Tracy
Um,
normally goes with these questions. Tracy normally goes blank, so it'll probably be me answering it.
okay, well, we'll see how we get on. Maybe Tracy's got some insights for them, but I'm happy if I just get one answer off the pair of you then.
There we go. We'll do it as a pair. We'll do it as a pair.
There we go, teamwork. Well, we'll go for the first one then. Can you tell me what car you would drive if it was the only car you could ever drive forever?
It's so easy for me. It's like an Aston Martin Vanquish or Vantage, shall I say?
Nice answer. Not going to fit much in
Mm.
that if you go anywhere.
That is the point, Josh. We've got grandkids.
Yeah, so you haven't chosen the gold Lamborghini that our grandson would love.
Nope.
Because he'd have to go out in it.
He'd be a permanent fixture in it.
And it doesn't fit car seats in it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And for me, do you know what? It's just anything that will get me reliably from A to B. I really have no massive, yeah,
Mm.
as
Not
long
an
as it
Aston Martin
goes.
then.
Yeah, I do.
Not any new car, really. They're not going to last. They never do.
We haven't gone for electric ones.
Mm.
Oh, there's another topic. I don't think you'll ever see me in one of them. So we get on with the next one then. Can you tell me if you could deliver a driving lesson to anyone, who would it be? Oh, this could be interesting, actually. The two of you sat there. I've had a few. Oh.
You know, we were talking earlier. I would love, I don't know, would I give a lesson to them? I'm not. I'm going to say, because I quite like him as a person, but Lando Norris,
Who's that?
Formula One racing driver.
Ah, you
Who
can see
doesn't
that I'm not
actually
into
need
many
any
sports.
driving lessons.
I'm just, it'd be interesting to see him drive my car. No, no, no. His car on normal roads. I think that could be, with me sort of like asking questions, I think that could be quite interesting. And if he does listen, does he want to come on the podcast? That'd be great.
We'll give a shout out.
Yeah.
I reckon, yeah, he's going to listen and he's going to be watching this.
I think so. I think
Absolutely.
so.
If not, he'll definitely be listening to yours.
And see how much he checks his mirrors. That's what I want to find out.
F1 driver. I'm going to hazard a guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'll go with that. Lando Norris.
Nice answer. I should follow more sports. Have you got any advance on that, Tracy? Who would you like to have in the car to deliver a lesson? Or not, or get a lesson off?
I was going to say, because I don't do lessons, do I? I'm not.
Who would you like a driving lesson off?
God, not you. The arguments would be a nightmare. I think for those sorts of questions, it always my go-to answer was always, who would you want to have tea with, or who would you want to meet,
Yeah.
or it's sort of like along those lines. It would have always been the Queen. So when the Queen was alive, it would have always been the Queen, because she meets so many people. Then you could ask her who would be the best person, because she'd met everybody, hadn't she? So I think she would have had some fascinating things to say and stories to tell and things like that. If she was, if she actually spilled the beans, so to speak. But yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, an interesting answer and with an interesting purpose as well. Not for her, just so you can find out all the gossip from everyone else.
Yeah, yeah. I think her face used to say lots of different things, and you said, "Oh, I'd love to know what you were thinking." So, yeah.
A good answer. So
Interesting.
this one then, let's see what we can get from this. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Whatever it was, it went in one ear and out the other.
It didn't stick.
I
Not very
clearly
good.
didn't follow it. Don't know.
Best advice.
It's the best advice you've ever had.
Just be the best you can be. That's what it was. You don't have to be brilliant. You just be the best that you can be.
I like that one. And you guys are doing that, aren't you?
Try
In
it.
business,
Well, the amount that you've got going on, there's yeah, it worked. You're doing it.
oh
So
dear.
we'll get on then. This doesn't need to be industry related, but can you tell me your favorite book?
I'm going to be honest. I've only really started reading in the last 6 years. And there was I've got quite a few books. I'll let you just say first, but I can't pick my favourite one.
Yeah, I was an absolute avid reader from so we were completely different. So you couldn't get my head out of a book from about the age of 5 until I started my OU degree. And then I no longer had time to read fiction. And that sort of ruined everything for me. And ever since then, I've just been incredibly busy work-wise. So most of my reading is work reading. I mean, if you ask what I've read the most times, it would be really twee. It's sort of Lord of the Rings, which loads of people have read loads of times. Really good book that I read. The first book I read when I finished my degree. It wasn't really work related, but it wasn't fiction either. That was In the Heat of the Moment by a female firefighter. She's very high up, and she's also an ex-OU psychology student. So she did the same course as me, but then went on to be brilliant and do research into confidence and decision making in the fire brigade.
Oh, wow.
What's her name? Sasha Cohen, I think her name is. In the Heat of the Moment. That was very good. Yeah, whatever book I'm reading at the time, I generally love. So otherwise I wouldn't still be reading it, and I'll have, left it on the wayside. So I'm very fickle. I sort of move it, whatever is the flavour of the moment, really, for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I'm reading. I'm reading My Idiot Brain at the moment.
That
That's
sounds
good.
interesting.
Yeah, My Idiot Brain. So it's a good, fun, accessible way into understanding our idiot brains. So, yes. Yeah.
So I suppose one of them is The Midnight Garden by Matt Haig.
I've not heard of that one. What's that about?
No regrets. So it's like a story, but it's got a meaning behind the story. That's really, really good. Just gets you to think about your past and is it relevant now and all that sort of stuff. So that's quite good. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that one because there is so many that I've read that are and I keep putting them up on Facebook, the ones that I've read. So
that one you've recommended to a few people.
Yeah, that's really, really good, and because it's fiction meets non-fiction, which is quite weird in a way, but it's actually really good.
Nice. We'll put those on a reading list. It's growing. I don't know when I'm ever going to read any of these. I've got a pile at home now. I'm like, right, I'm going to get through that one. I ain't got time. But there's some good answers there for those. So next one, can you tell me one message you would give someone who's coming into the industry?
No, I can't.
Yeah.
That's it. I've one message. You go. I've got a massive message.
I think it would be to look at your motivation for going into the industry. Why is it that you want to do this as a job? If it is because you believe all the adverts about the masses of money that you're going to make, please do your homework. But yeah, I think you need to be motivated to come into this job. You need to understand what it is, why you want to do it. And I think the majority of ADIs that we talk to and that we speak to is because they want to help people and they get so much out of the job. So they get as much from their students as they give into their students. And I think that's a great motivation.
All right, here we go. Have you got a cup of tea?
We're ready.
There's only a couple points really, but I love what you said there. I thought it was really good.
Okay.
Moving on.
It's on record. You're good.
No, you can edit that bit out, Josh. Don't worry. You've thrown me now. Find a good trainer that you get on well with. Yeah, have a look at what they do. There's some really, really good trainers out there, and do your homework. And then the second bit is surround yourself with people you trust. And they don't have to live near you. They can, which is really good. But just surround yourself with people that are friendly, that know you, that you can trust them, and are there to help. It's a very, very lonely job if you want it to be. So podcasts, groups, choose your people that you want to surround yourself with.
Yeah, you can dip your toe in quite a few different ADI communities, can't you, to see if your tribe is there.
Some are good, some are not so good, but you'll find where you want to be. Surround yourself with people you trust.
It's a really good bit of advice too.
This is going well, isn't it? We're doing all right. We've got to get through them all yet. There's more questions yet. So not too many. Can you tell me one piece of advice you give a student who's about to go for their driving test?
How soon about to go for their driving test?
Next time you see them.
So is that sort of like a week before?
Yeah, whatever you want. If it's the day of or the week before, you can pitch the scenario.
Ooh.
I need to be more specific with these questions in future.
Yeah. For me, if it was 2 or 3 weeks before their test, it would be to make sure that in all the practice you've got going forward, that you're driving independently, that you're making your decisions, that you're not asking for help unless you're in a situation where actually, the risk needs to be managed. But that on the whole, for those last few lessons, you're you're driving as if you'd passed your test, and your driving instructor is there for guidance should something new or bizarre or unusual happen. But otherwise, drive like a driver.
Don't be a learner.
Don't be a learner. Yeah, because you're not a learner, because you've been learning. You are a driver in training. Drive like a driver, because then that way, on the day of your test, you know you can drive. And that piece, just that inner knowledge that actually I know I can drive. If I fail for some bizarre reason because something weird happens, that's okay, because I know I can drive and I will pass next time. It's that knowledge.
And I suppose that links with mine. Probably all the way throughout your lessons, really. But if they're going for their test, just recap on your knowledge and understanding of, what might you be doing? There's always going to be certain areas that has a roundabout, or has a hill start junction, or has a road that's got loads of parked cars on it, or whatever it may be. To just check your understanding of knowledge of, how do I do that? If this happens, what would I do? So you can ask those sort of questions before you go, because you know what to do, but you're just confirming it to yourself that you do know what you're doing. So checking knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, make sure there's no gaps.
No gaps.
Some great answers there, helping us prepare our students. I love it. So the last one, this one could be interesting. Tell me something you wish you were better at.
Answering questions.
Sorry. I was going to say listening. What's something I want to be better at? Ooh.
Balance.
What, on
work life? Yeah, not what.
I was thinking. Learning to say no. I'm pretty good at it now, but I need to be better at it still.
Yeah, we get really good at work-life balance and saying no, and then it's a slippery slope, and you sort of like you slip back into old habits, and then you have to start again, don't you, and get back on the
opportunities arise, and it's like, oh yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
opportunities are so exciting though, because that's the other thing. We don't like saying no to things because we like to say yes and get new opportunities and do new things, and it's exciting. But...
yeah. So this is lovely, isn't it? I love doing podcasts now. I love being a guest on a podcast. I didn't think I'd enjoy it so much, but I do actually quite enjoy it now. I've done a few of them, and it's actually...
I like the fact I'm not going to have to edit
it. Yeah, balance and saying no. Saying no, I'm all right at. Balance, I've found it, but the podcasting's tipped it slightly. But there's some good answers there, and it's been a really entertaining conversation with you guys. I've really enjoyed it, taken a lot from it, and there is another question yet, but this one is for you guys. Do you have any final messages or anywhere that you'd like to send people, promote anything that you've got coming up, any plans for the future? You can go wherever you want with this bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go. There's one message that we say all the time, isn't there? And we haven't said it once today,
which is really surprising,
really rare for us. So when it comes to anything, actually, not just nerves and anxiety and confidence, there is no one size fits all solution. So do the detective work to be able to find the most effective solution to suit the scenario. Mm-hmm. So no one size fits all. So that's a message that we normally push home quite consistently. So we might as well pop that in there.
Yeah. I'm going to say, don't normally say this, but there's loads of free resources on our website. And again, just have a look at them. Don't have to use them, but just have a look at them.
Yeah. So the Driving Confidence podcast, there's links from the website to that. The driving test wheel, the coaching wheel,
It's free.
is free for anybody to download.
Yeah.
So have a look at that as well. And then if you want to do something that, pays us,
Always welcome.
why not? Yeah, if you want to train with us, then we have a whole load of training things on offer. So we've got a 6-week course, but we've also got an online workshop, which is really inexpensive. But also we travel around. So we're going down south in February, we're in Lincoln in March. So where people just contact us and say, can you come and do training for the franchise or our association? Or so, we can offer face-to-face workshops, the online workshop.
Yeah. Never really.
Yeah.
And we can tailor-made it to you as well, because we've got such a diverse qualifications and experience. We can just do it whatever. So yeah.
And all of that is your website, and then people can find whatever they need, either contact you guys for in-person booking and dates for the courses that are coming up, all through the website.
Yep. Yeah. Which is www.confidenttdrivers.co.uk.
There we go. We'll get that put in the description as well. Anything else coming up that you'd like to share? Are you happy with that?
No, we're just super busy.
Yeah, we're working on the qualification, so there'll be news on that later on this year. So that's based on our current 6-week course, so people will be able to top up from the 6-week course, do the neurodiversity training, which we haven't mentioned, but we do that as well, CPD accredited neurodiversity training. And so they'll be able to do both sets of training and then top that up to the new qualification that should hopefully, we're working on it, we've still got to go through the process, but that should hopefully be out June is what we're aiming for. So that will help ADIs who want to know more about stress, nerves, anxiety, confidence building, neurodiversity, the whole package.
Amazing. We'll look forward to hearing and seeing about the course in the future. But Kev and Tracey, thank you very much for your time tonight. I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been great to get the insight from you guys. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great. Thank you.